We're live and on radio here, so you need to keep it down, Elvis.
I'm Sean Cannon, that's Dwight Yoakam, and you better listen to him, Elvis. This is a guest list short. Give it a little nudge, you know, in that general direction. Today on the guest list, I've got a short conversation with Dwight Yoakam, who started his career as a country music reject, touring with punk bands and feuding with Nashville, before ultimately becoming very much part of the establishment, only to find himself right back where he began all these years later, coloring outside the lines again. He'll tell you how it felt to recapture that early energy by working with Beck, and what it was like to hear himself on the radio for the very first time. That's all coming up in the next... How long is it this time, Elvis? Now you don't know either? On the guest list. I was at the press conference when you were talking earlier, and I'd thought a lot about this record in relation to records from the past. And I hadn't put it exactly the way that you phrased it, but it's like you've come full circle. And that's an interesting perspective because...
Well, it felt like that when Beck and I did those initial tracks, A Heart Like Mine, and there's a rawness to that and an energetic passion. And also, even Missing Heart, the thing that I did, you know, the second track that Beck and I co-produced, that really... reminded me of where I was, and if I go back now on YouTube, you can, you know, watch your entire life flash before your eyes. But I watched some things recently, the first year of '86 when we first broke nationally, after the EP had been out a couple of years, but on Warner's, I was watching a show from England, and there was an edge to that was palpable, and then this record felt that way to me, and hopefully the audience feels the kind of the kinetic energy of it.
And it's also interesting because that happened with the record, and then, you know, you're playing something like Bonnaroo, you're doing festivals like this, and it's akin to what you were doing early in your career, not playing country venues, not playing country tours.
Opening for Husker Du at the Irving Plaza, or with the Violent Femmes at the Argonne Ballroom in Chicago. You know, it was a fun romp. I mean, and it lived there. I mean, legitimately, that audience embraced what we were doing, and I always felt at home with, you know, college radio broke. That was the first time I ever heard one of my songs played on a radio station, was in the fall of 1984 on KXLU, which was Loyola Marymount station in Los Angeles. And it was a show with a woman named Stella's Stray Pop. So I was a stray pop, you know, for her that night, and it came between the Butthole Surfers and the Dead Kennedys. They played "It Won't Hurt" off of Guitars Cadillacs, and I said, I guess I'm on the way. I'm launched.
That's how it has. So that was
I pulled over my El Camino, and I knew that there was a chance she was going to play my record that night on that show, and I pulled over and there it went. And don't hold me to which one, if it was the DKs first or if it was the Butthole Surfers first, but it was preceding me and then followed by the Dead Kennedys.
But it was those two bands.
Those two bands. Oh, that was welded in my memory. I mean, I was like, you don't forget following or preceding either of those.
You know, in this day and age, hearing the Dead Kennedys, Dwight Yoakam, and the Butthole Surfers all in a row might not really seem as jarring as it did in the mid-'80s. You know, before Spotify ruled the world and playlists were generated randomly at the touch of a button. So instead of just playing those three in a row, I figured, well, why not go above and beyond and try to actually recreate just how bizarre it must have felt to hear Jello Biafra, Dwight Yoakam, and Gibby Haynes all together right there in 1984 on KXLU. So without further ado, here's a little ditty I like to call Dwight is a Dead Butthole. No offense, Dwight. It just happens to fit.
Cadillacs, guitars. Hillbilly music.
Marky got with Sharon, and Sharon got Sharita. She was sharing Sharon's outlook on the topic of disease. Mikey had a facial scar, and Bobby was a racist. They were all in love with dying. They were doing it in Texas. Tommy played piano like a kid out in the rain. Then he lost his leg in Dallas. He was dancing with the train. They were all in love with dying. They were drinking from a fountain that was pouring like an avalanche coming down the mountain. I don't mind the sun sometimes. It is a shame. I can taste you on my lips and smell you in my bones. Cinnamon and sugar and salted spoken lies. Just how to look through other people's eyes. Some will die in hot pursuit, fiery auto crashes. Some will die in hot pursuit while sifting through my ashes. Some will fall in love with life and drink it from a fountain that is pouring like an avalanche coming down the mountain.
Terrifying, right? Yeah. Well, I'll see you next week. I'm Sean Cannon. It's the guest list. Steer into it.